earlier today at the NFL Combine in Indianapolis, Steelers GM Omar Khan took the podium and gave some very interesting answers as far as his vision for the future of the Pittsburgh Steelers. And on today's edition of Steelers Talk, I'm going to be sharing my takeaways from what he said during his press conferences earlier today. Now, you guys can make sure you guys catch all of our 2026 Combine coverage on the Pittsburgh Steelers all throughout the week here. We have people on the ground there in Indianapolis to get you guys these clips from these press conferences, these interviews, to get scoops on which players are meeting with the Pittsburgh Steelers. So make sure you guys click that subscribe button if you haven't already to never miss a video from us here on Steelers Talk, not only this week, but any week during the 2026 offseason. So the first takeaway that I had from Omar Khan's comments today was that, Aaron Rodgers is certainly, not resolved at this point, that situation. And I do think that, this team, it's not much has changed, as Omar Khan said himself, where this team wants him back, and they've let Rodgers know that, and Rodgers is at least open to thinking about coming back for another year, but they are still waiting on a final decision from Rodgers himself. This is what Omar Khan had to say earlier today. I've been in communication with Aaron. I know Mike has as well, talking about Mike McCarthy, the new head coach. No deadline, but I don't foresee this going like it did last year. I don't really want to say it has to be done by the start of free agency. We'd like to have an idea by then, but it's just not going to go like it did last year. I'll say this, we'd certainly welcome Aaron back. It was a really good experience with him. I really enjoyed getting to know him, and he was great to have around. So it certainly seems like what we've been saying on this show for the last several weeks, that plan A for the Pittsburgh Steelers is for Aaron Rodgers to return as this team's starting quarterback, but obviously they don't have a final answer from him at this point. And something that I thought was pretty interesting during his press conference today is when somebody asked him and asked Omar Khan, what about Aaron going somewhere else in free agency? And this is his answer. Let's take a listen.
That's a question for Aaron. I mean, he knows how we feel, and I think we know how he feels about us. It was a good experience for both sides. Unfortunately, we didn't reach our goals on winning the games that we wanted to win at the end. But there's a mutual respect there.
So something that I thought was particularly interesting about that clip was that he said that there's quote-unquote mutual respect between the Pittsburgh Steelers and Aaron Rodgers, and it kind of sounds to me like it's Steelers or retire for A-Rod, kind of like, we have mutual respect for each other. If he wasn't planning on coming back to the Pittsburgh Steelers, if he decided to come back, we would like to kind of know that and for him to give us that answer. He respects us too much to leave the organization is kind of how I took that clip there from Omar Khan, and I think that the good news about this whole situation and Omar's answer in terms of Aaron Rodgers and his situation is, although he didn't give us any concrete answers, it does sound like Pittsburgh expects an answer soon. And I'm sure they're getting that indication from Rodgers himself in their conversations over the phone, all that different stuff. I'm sure Rodgers is telling him, I don't want to hold you guys up too long. I'm going to make a decision, in a timely manner, whether that's, before NFL free agency or shortly after. Definitely going to be interesting here. But if I'm the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm telling Aaron, listen, you can take all the time that you want. You're a free person. You're a free agent here, and you can retire, you can play, whatever. But if you are not under contract with us by the start of NFL free agency, we obviously reserve the right to sign somebody else in NFL free agency, somebody like a Malik Willis, if we have the opportunity to do so. So the clock is certainly ticking when it comes to an Aaron Rodgers decision, and whenever that decision comes down, we'll have breaking news coverage for you guys right here on Steelers Talk. Sticking with the quarterback position, though, Omar Khan was definitely complimentary of second-year former sixth-round pick out of Ohio State, Will Howard, who is definitely in the mix, is the way that I would describe it at this point. This is what Omar Khan had to say about the long-term quarterback situation here in Pittsburgh. We all agree that we're looking for that next franchise guy. We're not there yet. We may have the guy on the roster. We don't know. We're excited to work with Will Howard, but we know that quarterback needs to be addressed, and we're all looking for the same thing. We're just not there yet. So that certainly sounds to me like Will isn't going to go unchallenged, at least in terms of him being the future of this franchise. I feel like a lot of Steelers fans are ready to just give the job to Will Howard and make him the starting quarterback. But, Omar Khan, based on that comment right there, it seems very hesitant to just give him the job. It seems like they've seen a lot of things in practice that they like when it comes to Will Howard. And, there's a lot of things that they've seen that indicate that this guy could be the long-term answer at the quarterback position for the Pittsburgh Pittsburgh Steelers. They haven't ruled it out by any means, but that last comment probably indicates to me that if Will Howard's going to get a chance to be the starting quarterback this year, there's going to be some sort of veteran or even rookie competition brought in to really test and challenge Will Howard to kind of confirm that he is the right guy for the job moving forward. Here's some more about Will Howard that Omar Khan had to say during the press conference.
Yeah, like all the fans, we're all searching for the next franchise, player. This guy's going to be our quarterback for 10 to 15 years, and it might be Will. We don't know. We're excited to work with Will. Really liked him coming out last year. Unfortunately, he got hurt, and we didn't get a chance to see him in the preseason. But he, we've watched his progression in practice, and it's been exciting. And I know the new coaching staff, specifically Coach McCarthy, is excited to work with him. Really liked him coming out.
So kind of like Omar was just saying there, they've seen a lot of things that they like, but they're also open to other opportunities at the position as well. Obviously, Aaron plays a factor as well into the decision as to who's going to be the starting quarterback in 2026. But I think it's certainly fair to say at this point that Will Howard is definitely firmly in the mix to be the next franchise quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he's going to have an opportunity to show what he can do under this new regime under Mike McCarthy. So predict it for me down there in the comment section. How many quarterbacks from last year's roster will be on the team this year? Will there just be one, Will Howard? Will there be two with Aaron Rodgers coming back, three? Or will they bring back the entire quartet with Rodgers, Rudolph, Howard, and Skylar Thompson on the practice squad? Let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. This will be the pinned comment on today's show. So in just a second here, I'm going to tell you about our sponsor today at Rag & Bone. Well, I'll tell you about our new sponsor here on Steelers Talk. Give me a number between 1 and 4. You guys might have noticed this brand new denim shirt that I've been wearing on the show the last couple of days. And if you guys are wondering where I got it from a brand new sponsor here at Steelers Talk, Rag & Bone. Rag & Bone Infuse offers a range of tailored fits for any style and occasion. From slim and straight to athletic and relaxed, Infuse denim is a wardrobe staple that pairs perfectly with any outfit and whatever fit that you prefer. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off their entire order with code CHAD at rag-bone.com. I was completely blown away the first time I tried on my Rag & Bone shirt and jeans because of how broken in they already felt and how high quality the materials were. I used to have to choose between jeans that look great and ones that actually lasted, but with Rag & Bone, I finally get the best of both worlds. Rag & Bone Infused Denim is crafted with a proprietary 8-step over-dye process, and it gives each piece a rich dimensional color that gets better with every wash. And not only do they look great, but Rag & Bone makes jeans that are built to last that actually get more comfortable the more that you wear them. It's time to upgrade your denim with Rag & Bone today. For a limited time only, our listeners get 20% off their entire order with code CHAT at rag-bone.com. That's 20% off at rag-bone.com with promo code CHAT. When they ask where you heard about them, please support our show and tell them that we sent you, and a big thank you to Rag & Bone for sponsoring today's edition of Steelers Talk. Another takeaway that I kind of took away here today from Omar Khan's press conference is that they are trying to bring back Kenneth Gainwell here for the 2026 NFL season here in Pittsburgh. They really enjoyed their time with Kenneth Gainwell, who was the team MVP last year, and apparently Gainwell and his representation know that Pittsburgh wants him back this year. This is what Khan had to say. Kenny was great to have around, and he knows we want him back, and we've been in communication with his people. So I guess it's just up to Kenneth Gainwell, whether or not the money that the Steelers are offering him is enough to come back for another season. But he also said that he expects Caleb Johnson to quote-unquote turn a corner this upcoming season after not really playing all that much during the 2025 campaign. Of course, Gainwell, I think, played a lot better than maybe the Steelers were expecting heading into camp and heading into the 2025 season, kind of sidelining Caleb Johnson, who was this team's third-round pick just last year. See what Omar Khan had to say about the third-year guy out of Iowa.
Yeah, obviously what you guys saw on the field was disappointing. It's got to be better, but we see it on the practice field. We knew what he did in college, and I'd expect Caleb to turn the corner.
So the running back position's definitely going to be an interesting one to keep an eye on here as we approach NFL free agency in the next couple of weeks. Could certainly see the Steelers bring back Kenneth Gainwell, but I'm sure they've got their number that they feel comfortable bringing him back for. And if somebody else outbids us for Kenneth Gainwell's services, I think they're more than comfortable moving to Caleb Johnson as the number 2 running back option heading into next year. When it comes to the cornerback 2 situation here, of course, you got Joey Porter Jr. As your CB1 moving forward. But Omar Khan Khan indicated that the team would like to bring back either James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr. For another season here in Pittsburgh. Here's Omar on that issue.
I'd say all options are on the table right now. Both players are free agents, like you mentioned. Both players are. We'd like to have both of them back. We'll see how it shakes out.
And I agree with Omar Khan on this one, guys. I would love to bring back either James Pierre or Asante Samuel Jr. for another season here in Pittsburgh. And my guess is they're going to end up bringing one of these guys back, all right? I know there's a lot of talk right now about maybe drafting a cornerback to play on the opposite side of Joey Porter Jr. And, that's certainly something that they could do as well. But I also think they want a veteran presence at corner. Now, something to keep in mind and something to remember is that Brandon Echols is still under contract. Now, is it possible the Steelers let him go? Sure, but for somebody that is pretty versatile, can play inside or out, it's got some good speed to him, and has some experience playing in this defense, I think that he would be a nice piece as a rotational or depth piece to keep on the roster heading into next season. So because Echols is on the roster, I think it's going to be tough to keep both James Pierre and Asante Samuel Jr. I think you're going to have to choose one or the other, because I'm not sure either Pierre or Asante wants to be a backup piece heading into next NFL season. So you're going to have to pick between one or the other. And my preference when it comes to those two guys is James Pierre. All right, I do believe that Patrick Graham is going to want to dive more into man coverage here with the Pittsburgh Steelers defense. And I thought James Pierre is just the more physical, longer, better man cover corner than Asante Samuel Jr. is. Now, if we were running, an off zone, quarters cover 6 heavy defense, heading into next year, then I would probably want Asante Samuel Jr. But James Pierre showed he was more than capable of running that stuff as well. James Pierre was the second highest graded corner in football last year, and sure, it was he had less than a season or less than half a season of starts last year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, but in the time that he was on the field, his tape was awesome. He just racked up the PBUs. Opposing offenses tried to target him and pick on him, and he just didn't allow that to happen. He was fantastic last year. I believe that he can take that level of play into 2026. So for my money, I'm bringing back James Pierre if I am GM Omar Khan, and I have to pick between him and Asante Samuel Jr. But let me know what you guys think down there in the comment section. Pick your CB2 heading into next year. Type JP if you're bringing back James Pierre, or type ASJ for Asante Samuel Jr., assuming that the money would be about the same for both of these gentlemen. All right, another takeaway that I had from what Omar Khan had to say today is that there might not be a lot of roster cuts coming for the Pittsburgh Steelers coming up here in the short-term future. There's a lot of talk about cutting Jonnu Smith, about cutting Patrick Queen. There's a lot of talk about Jalen Ramsey as well. And Omar kind of made it seem like, hey, we got the cap space. Why would we let go of these veteran players that we like? This is what Omar had to say in the media scrum this morning. We're in good cap shape. We're in good cap shape. I'll just say that. So nothing's imminent, but we're in pretty good cap shape. So does that mean that the Pittsburgh Steelers are keeping Jonnu Smith, guys? Because you guys know, if you've been watching the channel, that is unacceptable to me. Jonnu Smith doesn't do anything for your football team, man. He doesn't block. He doesn't really catch the football all that well. He doesn't run routes. He's not particularly fantastic after the catch either. At least he wasn't last season. And you can save $7 million by letting him go. I just don't see any feasible way that you would want to keep Jonnu Smith on your roster. But someone specifically asked about Jonnu Smith today at the press conference, and this is what Omar Khan had to say.
You can't ever have enough good players at a specific position. With respect to the monetary part of your question, I'd say we're in a good cap position, so we have flexibility to do different things. And obviously, we haven't been in a position where we're paying the quarterback position at the top level. So we've had flexibility to where maybe you can go heavy at a specific position.
Look, man, I don't care what Omar Khan has to say there. You could theoretically keep Jonnu Smith, Darnell Washington, Pat Freiermuth all on the same roster heading into next year. But in my opinion, man, I think that $7 million heading into 2026 free agency is more valuable to your football team than Jonnu Smith, who I believe was dead last in yards per route run, not just last year in the National Football League, but over the last 6 years among tight ends with at least 250 passing reps. reps. That is absolutely atrocious. We do not need this guy on our football team. And I think Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington are more than capable of being a serviceable tight end duo for the Pittsburgh Steelers moving forward. So, Omar Khan's making it seem like not a lot of, cuts are going to be happening here. I'm hoping at least Jonnu Smith is out the door this year. But another interesting note on what Omar just said there is that in that clip, Omar makes it seem like he's not really expecting to be spending a lot on the quarterback position either. Like he talks specifically about how he doesn't expect to, be spending a whole lot of money at that position. And, if you're going to take that at his word there, you could look at, Aaron Rodgers. What if he retires? What is going to be their backup plan? Maybe they don't, spend a lot of money on Malik Willis or go out and trade for an expensive Kyler Murray. Maybe they go out and look at some of the cheaper quarterback options to kind of compete with Will Howard if Aaron Rodgers decides to retire. Guys like Geno Smith, who's probably going to be signed to the vet minimum to somebody this offseason. Ty Simpson, drafting him in the first round, obviously a cheap option with him being a rookie on a cost-controlled rookie contract. Like that, I took that kind of clip from Omar Khan to mean, if Aaron Rodgers retires, we still don't plan on paying a whole lot of money for the quarterback position, so we have this cap flexibility when it comes to building out our roster. So I would say if Rodgers retires, look for the Steelers to go with some more cheaper options at the quarterback position instead of splurging on somebody like Malik Willis. But then it also sounds like guys on the roster that some people are talking about as potential trade candidates like Patrick Queen and Jalen Ramsey could be kept on board as well. Omar said this about Patrick Queen and his future here in Pittsburgh. He says he likes being here and we like having him part of the team. I'm excited to have him around. And then when it comes to Jalen Ramsey, Omar said, I can't say enough good things about Jalen. His preparation, his role will kind of shake out with the new coaching staff as he comes in, but he's got versatility. That's the beauty of Jalen. If you want him at corner, he can play corner, at nickel, safety. There's a lot of things that he can do. You can blitz him. It's exciting. I know the new coaching staff is excited to work with him. Can't say enough about what he did for us early in the season. He switched positions. He's one of the most unselfish football players I've ever been around. Certainly doesn't seem like Omar Khan is looking to cut either one of those guys anytime soon. Now we get to some more presser takeaways here from Omar Khan. Another one is that it seems like multiple contract extensions could be coming for some young Steelers players that were recently drafted by this football team, specifically in the 2023 NFL draft class. You guys can take a look at some of these players that are extension eligible now, guys like Joey Porter Jr., Darnell Washington, Nick Herbig, Keanu Benton, but also some other players that are heading into the final year of their current deals that could sign extensions with the team if they want. Guys like Brandon Echols, Dylan Cook, who played really well at left tackle for us last year, Spencer Anderson, and then, of course, the Wizard of Boz himself in Chris Boswell. Here's Omar Khan talking about how he's going to prioritize locking some of these guys up this offseason.
I think to when your question is, we're in good cap shape, so we have the flexibility to maybe do some things that might not be normal in people's eyes, but we have that flexibility. So the key is just keep as many of our good players under contract and locking them up. That's important. I really believe we have a good young nucleus of guys that are deserving of second contracts.
Now, Omar was pretty general in that clip that you just watched, but he did later particularly call out Darnell Washington as somebody that he really feels strongly about, and he definitely wants to be a long-term Pittsburgh Steeler. He also gave us an update on his injured arm that ended his season last year. This is what Omar had to say about the big tight end.
Yeah, I mean, his arm's fine, by the way. No, should be no restrictions, no issues. It's just him who he is, and I expect him to get even better. And he had more opportunities too. A tough evaluation. I'll take 20 of them. He's a guy we want here long term.
And personally, guys, I couldn't agree more with GM Omar Khan on this. I think Darnell Washington is that elephant, giant, jumbo tight end, a great blocker that every offense, needs at some point during the NFL season. It fits every single scheme known to man, whether you run a spread system, whether you run, multiple tight ends like we tried to run last year. I'm expecting the Steelers to run a lot of 12 personnel, which means 2 tight ends on the field next year alongside Pat Freiermuth, who Omar Khan was also very complimentary of during this press conference, by the way. It seems like they're really are going to be trying to lean in on Pat Freiermuth and Darnell Washington in the years to come, and it sounds like they're going to try and get an extension done with DW this offseason, which I'm all about. But then, when it comes to one of those extension-eligible players and whether or not they're going to get that extension, Omar Khan did have a stunning admission on Nick Herbig and his status with the football team today during the media scrum this morning, and this is what he had to say about Herbig's future with the team. Nick wants to play more, and I think we'd all like to have Nick on the field more, but he's obviously someone that we'd like to have around for a long time. This defense has been based on those 3 outside pass rushers for a long time, so you can never have enough of them. And listen, man, I just think it's going to be very, very difficult to keep everyone happy in that room unless these guys agree to kind of split up their reps 3 ways evenly, and everybody's happy about that. There's just no way to keep all 3 of these guys happy as long as they're playing as well as they are. I mean, Nick Herbig's played third fiddle in this outside linebacker room for multiple years now and hasn't complained. I don't blame him for wanting to get paid and for him to get a full-time starting role because, frankly, he has earned it. So if he goes to the organization this year and says, I want to either be traded or I want to get paid and given a full-time starting spot, they're going to have to make a tough decision. Trade Nick Herbig or trade Alex Highsmith or TJ Watt to open a space up for Nick Herbig. And I think that that's probably what's going to end up happening this offseason. And I think that the decision from the Steelers will be to trade Nick Herbig instead of TJ Watt and Alex Highsmith. Now, to be clear, I think the best move for the team would be to trade away TJ Watt because I think that he showed last year in particular that he's starting to decline athletically, and with the amount of money that's left on his deal, if you can find somebody that's willing to trade for him and take on a lot of the money that's left on his deal for like a second or a third round pick, I think that that is something that I would definitely do. And with that added cap space that I have in future seasons, not only this year, you save $12 million if you let him go this year, I'm extending Nick Herbig for something that would end up being less than what you're paying TJ Watt right now at 31 years old. So I just think it makes the most sense to trade. If you have to trade one of these guys, I want to trade any of them, but if you got to trade one of them, I'm going to trade the oldest, the least productive, and the most expensive. And right now, that is clearly TJ Watt, in my opinion. Now, with that said, if we can swap Nick Herbig in a trade for a great wide receiver, I think that I could stomach that move a little bit more. Like, would it suck to lose Nick Herbig, a 24-year-old budding star at the edge rusher position? Absolutely, that would suck. But if in that move, we're also getting a Jalen Waddle or an A.J. Brown or one of these star wide receivers that could be on the trade block this year, I think that you can kind of look at this situation where it's like, okay, we have a lot of good players at this one position. We can trade one of those players to, turn a weakness into a strength, which is the wide receiver position here in Pittsburgh with one fell swoop. So if they're going to trade Nick Herbig, I think probably the way that I would want it to be done is to get a second-round pick in exchange for him or to include him in a trade for a big-name wide receiver. So what say you guys? Let me know down there in the comment section. Would you be okay with Nick Herbig being traded if we can get a great wide receiver along in the deal? Give me a yes or a no down there in the comment section to let me know what you guys are thinking about that idea. Then we got a couple final takeaways here before I say goodbye today. First one here, Broderick Jones. It's not looking good for him. He obviously suffered a very significant neck injury last year that ended his season, and apparently it might bleed into the 2026 training camp, which obviously would not be good news for Broderick Jones and his chances of winning the starting left tackle job next year. Omar said obviously he had a significant injury and we're monitoring how he progresses. I know he's working hard. It's early in the process. That's certainly something that we're monitoring. And the fact that he's saying it's still early in the process, that's not a good sign. It's been months since Broderick Jones got injured. And I just hope that he makes a full recovery, gets a full chance to show us what he can do next year. But at this point, guys, I would be absolutely shocked if the Pittsburgh Steelers pick up his fifth-year option. I just don't think it makes sense to make that investment in a player that you're not even sure is going to be ready to go for the start of next season, let alone the long-term future here in Pittsburgh. And to me, it feels like Dylan Cook is going to be in the driver's seat to be this team's starting left tackle heading into the 2026 season. And listen, man, Dylan Cook played pretty darn well last year, in my opinion, and I would be okay with him being our starting left tackle. Sounds like Omar Khan agrees with me on that. He said this about Cook: Dylan did a really good job for us when he had to come in. He really did. He's got that quarterback background. I think that helped him. I think he's a good player. He stepped in and I think played at a good level. So right now I would assume Dylan Cook will be the team's starting left tackle, but who knows? They might even make a splash in free agency for somebody else out there. Maybe Trent Williams. He's expected to potentially be on the market this year. We'll see how that goes. But then the final takeaway that I'll discuss today is Omar Khan once again doubling down on his affinity for Roman Wilson, despite the fact that his first 2 years in the National Football League have not gone all that well. Here's Omar Khan on Roman Wilson.
Yeah, that's a good question. I've talked about how you guys have heard me talk about my belief in Roman. I think Roman's a talented player, and I expect him to contribute. I know the coaching staff is excited to work with him, and his rookie year, he got hurt, and that was a little bit of a setback. And last year, the opportunities didn't come. I think like everybody would have liked, but I think he's got a good future. Yeah. So the first year obviously was the injuries. He was. Sorry, Brian McFadden over there waving at me. He was the first year he got hurt. And I think at the end we were getting ready to start the window for him to practice, and we got eliminated from the playoffs. And then last year, different situations. There were different things, and there's not one specific thing. But I'm confident you guys are going to see some good things from him this year.
Now, my biggest takeaway from that clip that you guys just watched is that it sounds like Roman will for sure be on the roster in 2026. I don't think they're going to, trade him away or completely give up on him or cut him, God forbid. Do think he'll be on the roster next year. But my question is just how much belief does Omar Khan have in Roman Wilson here? How much belief are we talking about here in somebody that just hasn't been a very productive player for the Pittsburgh Steelers his first 2 years in the league? Now, some people will blame quarterback play for that, all that different stuff. Certainly, it seems like the former OC and quarterback here in Aaron Rodgers blame Roman at least a bit for how he played in his first 2 years here in Pittsburgh. But, exactly how much are we believing in Roman Wilson here heading into year 3 of his NFL career? Are we trusting him to be a starter? I really don't think that that's a good idea at this point. We trusted him to be that wide receiver 2 option for us last year, and how did that work out? We ended up having to go to get Adam Thielen and Marquez Valdes-Scantling 3/4 of the way through the year, and we kind of, effed our quarterback to have one of the worst wide receiver rooms in the league, if not the worst, because we put our faith in Roman Wilson. I think that one of the biggest bugaboos of Omar Khan throughout his time as the GM of the Pittsburgh Steelers is he has put so much faith in Roman Wilson as a player, and time again, Roman Wilson lets him and all of us and Omar Khan down. I just really hope at this point they're not putting their faith in him again to be a starting level wide receiver for this football team. And in my opinion, Roman shouldn't be anything more than a wide receiver 4 heading into next season. Now, if he goes into camp and he's an awesome fit for McCarthy's offense, he's finally learned how to tempo and rhythm his routes so that he can break open when the quarterback's looking at him in the progression and he can play like a pro. Awesome. Roman Wilson can be a great happy surprise next year for the Pittsburgh Steelers, and he can be a part of this team's rotation. But to go into the season expecting him to take those steps when he hasn't taken those steps in his first 2 years, I think would be malpractice from Omar Khan and the Pittsburgh Steelers. They got to find not one, but 2 more legitimate starters to fill out this wide receiver room to partner with DK Metcalf. In my opinion, Roman has to be and should be forced to earn every single bit of playing time he gets next year. Otherwise, he can be next year's version of Scotty Miller, where he's just the backup that comes in case somebody gets injured, right? If Roman wants to be a starter in this offense, I would get 2 guys that are legitimate starters in their own right, whether that be via free agency, whether that be via the draft, and force Roman Wilson to beat those guys out in camp. I'm not just handing him a job like I did last year, because that was a big reason why this team and this offense was severely limited throwing the ball down the field last year. So I'm not going to make that same mistake again this year if I'm Omar Khan. Hopefully Omar has learned from his mistake and won't count on Roman Wilson being a big-time starting wide receiver for this team next season. So true or false, let me know down there in the comments section. Roman Wilson will be top 3 among Steelers wide receivers next year in receiving yards. Type T if you think that statement is true, or type F if you think that statement is false. Just to give you an idea of how bad the Steelers wide receiver room was last year, guys, Roman Wilson was in the top 3 in yardage from wide receivers last year. That's how bad this wide receiver room was. But let me know if you think he does it again here in 2026. Type T if you think that statement is true, or F if you think that statement is false. Then we showed a lot of clips from our press conference with Omar Khan from Indianapolis in today's show. But if you guys want to see his full comments on every single question asked his way in Indianapolis today, you guys can check out that full press conference. It's on the channel right now. Put the chip to that one in the top right if you want to check it out. But that'll be it for my takeaways here from Tuesday during Combine Week here on Steelers Talk. We're going to have more Steelers content coming your way throughout the week. Of course, we'll get word starting tomorrow as to which players the Steelers are formally meeting with at the Combine. That news is going to be coming in all throughout the week, guys. So make sure you click that subscribe button if you haven't already. Get the very latest updates from Indianapolis from us here at Chat Sports.